Today we're just going to introduce the trademark system, give you a few basic ideas about how it works, and talk a little bit about how it differs from other types of intellectual property. So the first thing to think about when you think about trademark law is all of the trademarks that you experience on a day-to-day basis. So just think about walking into a supermarket or walking down the street. You're exposed to hundreds, if not thousands of these a day. So there are lots of really good examples. Think of Nike, think of Coca-Cola, think of the car that you drive. All of these things have trademarks attached to them. The Coke can has got the Coke label on it, and it's got that wavy strip, right? You think about, the swoosh on the Nikes that you're wearing right now. All of those things are trademarks. And the idea behind them is that you're supposed to actually be able to distinguish where that product came from. So the most important thing to understand as we start off this discussion about trademark law is to realize that the function of trademarks is to say where you got that product. When you go in and you say, you know what, I want to buy a product, right? I want to have something that is of a certain sort, that you're able to recognize that. So think about the way in which you actually buy products, right? So today you go into a store and you want a drink and you take a look around and you say, that particular thing over there, so that red can, it's got some funny lettering on it, it's got a wavy stripe on it, right? Well, I'll try that. And you take a drink of this thing called a Coke. And you say, that was delicious. So tomorrow you come into the store, same store, and you say, I want to get that same thing that I got yesterday. How do you identify what you got yesterday? The easiest way for you as the consumer to reduce your search costs, as it's called in the trade, is to say, I want the same thing I got yesterday. Let me see if I can find some packaging, some labeling that shows the same thing that I got yesterday. And so you go over to the fridge and you see all of these cans, and one of them happens to be red, right? It's got a wavy stripe on it with the name Coke. And you go, I recognize that, because that's what human beings do, right? We recognize visual objects and visual identities of various sorts, as well as other sorts, but we'll come back to that later. And the idea then is you say, okay, I'll grab that one, because yesterday I had that one and it was fantastic. So the point is that on a day-to-day basis, the way that the trademark system is supposed to operate is that there is a stability of branding, a stability of marks, right, where it means that the consumer is able to fulfill their purchasing requirements. They're able to actually get what they want. Because it'd be a really, really bad idea if other people were allowed to create red labeled cans that looked a lot like a Coke can. Because then when you go into the store tomorrow or the day after that, you think that you're getting the same thing that you got today, the Coke, but in fact you're not. You're getting Dan's really, really bad imitation of a Coke soda, right? And that would be a terrible thing. It'd be a bad thing for you, and it would also be a bad thing for Coke. And one of the things that we'll see as we look at the various aspects of trademark law is to see how, unlike other types of intellectual property, trademark law is all about the stability of this particular brand over time. So what all of this means is there's a different sort of justification for trademark than there are for other sorts of intellectual property. Think about copyright for a minute. The thing about copyright, if you think about books or movies or those sorts of things, is that they won't get produced unless someone has a monopoly over them. Okay? If I'm going to go out there and I'm going to create a book and spend all of the time and effort to write it, then I'd better make sure that nobody's able to rip me off once it's been produced. So the copyright system creates a situation where the author of the work, right, is the only one who's allowed to reproduce it, who's the only one who's allowed to copy it. The trademark system is different. The justification here is to make sure that the consumer is not confused, so that when you go into the store, you get the Coke tomorrow. The other part of the deal of the trademark system is that you're supposed to be able to create a business reputation. Right? So the idea is that the consumer is not confused, but that also means that Coke has got a vested interest in ensuring that they have high quality products all of the time, that doesn't change. Because if you go into the store tomorrow, right, and you find that the Coke brand no longer actually gives you what you want, then Coke is out of pocket, or that is to say, they're actually not going to get what they want, which is for you to come back and keep purchasing time and time again. So the two basic justifications of the trademark system is first, the idea of consumer confusion. We want to reduce that. We want to make sure that consumers don't get confused. And then the second part of it is that the business should actually get a reputational benefit. And that's how trademark law differs from other areas of intellectual property like copyright and patent. The final thing that we'll talk about today is about the different types of trademarks. Generally speaking, right, we're going to worry about the things that we call trademarks or service marks. Those are the things that identify products. There are a few other sorts of types of trademarks within the Australian trademark system, notably collective marks and certification marks. They work in similar ways to the trademark system, to the regular trademarks that we've talked about, but we're not going to really worry about them too much. The main type of trademark that we're worried about are the ones that identify products. Collective marks and certification marks have different functions, and we'll come back to them another time. So, the takeaway for today's video is first, that trademarks are different from other types of intellectual property, and second, that the idea behind them is really to ensure that consumers are not confused and businesses have a benefit of reputation.